No one marks this day on a calendar. There's no photo, no memory notification. But years later, when you trace your life backward, you realize everything bends around this one quiet point. It was the day nothing happened. And somehow, that was enough to change everything. It started like any other day. You woke up without resistance. No dread. No excitement. Just that neutral feeling of existing. You reached for your phone the way you always do. Same apps. Same scrolling. Same empty seconds disappearing. The room looked familiar. The ceiling. The light. The small details you'd stopped noticing long ago. If someone asked you later what made that day different, you wouldn't know what to say. Because on the surface, it wasn't. You moved through your routine without friction. You answered messages. You nodded at the right moments. You laughed when expected. Nothing demanded your attention. And yet, somewhere between one ordinary moment and the next, something inside you shifted its weight. Not enough to stop you, just enough to be felt. It didn't hurt. It didn't scare you. It felt like a pause that didn't ask permission. Maybe it happened while you were listening to someone talk and realized you weren't really listening anymore. Maybe it happened when you read a message and noticed your heart didn't react the way it used to. Or maybe it happened in silence. No trigger. No cause. Just a sudden awareness that arrived late and stayed. This feels different. You didn't finish the thought, you didn't sit with it. You pushed it aside and kept going. Because the day didn't allow space for reflection. It didn't slow down for your realization. Life kept moving, and you moved with it. You didn't understand then that this is how real change begins. Not with decisions, not with promises. But with noticing. That day, you noticed something you had been avoiding for a long time. And noticing is irreversible. You can pretend not to see it, but your body remembers before your mind accepts it. From the outside, you were the same. Same tone of voice, same habits. Same place in people's lives. But inside, a quiet distance formed, not from others. From an old version of yourself. The one who waited longer than necessary. The one who explained more than required. The one who believed effort would always be met halfway. That version didn't disappear. It just stopped leading. You didn't feel brave. You didn't feel strong. You felt tired in a new way. Not exhausted, resolved. There's a difference. Exhaustion wants rest, resolution wants change. But not loud change, small change. Invisible change. That day, you didn't confront anyone. You didn't walk away, you didn't make a dramatic choice. You simply stopped pushing against a truth you already knew. And when you stop pushing, things shift on their own. Over the next few days, nothing collapsed. That's what makes this kind of change confusing. Life didn't punish you. It didn't reward you either. But you started responding differently. You replied slower, you shared less detail. You stopped filling silences that weren't yours to fill. No one noticed at first. Quiet changes rarely get immediate reactions. They show up later, when people realize something feels different but can't explain why. You felt it too. Things that once felt urgent now felt optional. Things that once felt heavy now felt distant. Not because they mattered less, but because you finally understood where they belonged. That understanding came without words. It settled into you quietly, like dust after movement stops. That day didn't give you clarity. It gave you alignment. And alignment doesn't announce itself. It just makes resistance uncomfortable. You might remember trying to return to the way things were. To feel the same attachment, same excitement, the same hope. But it didn't work. Not because you were broken, because you had already crossed a line. Once you see a pattern clearly, you can't go back to misunderstanding it. That day taught you something without teaching you. It didn't explain, it didn't justify. It simply showed you the truth as it was, not as you wanted it to be. And that truth stayed. Later, when things finally did change on the outside, people might assume that was the beginning. They'll point to a breakup, a decision, a move, a loss. But you'll know better. You'll know it started long before. On a day when nothing happened. That's the day you stopped negotiating with yourself. The day you realized that waiting was also a choice. The day you understood that comfort and familiarity aren't the same thing. You didn't become colder, you became clearer. And clarity often looks like distance to people who benefited from your confusion. From that day on, you started choosing yourself in quiet ways. Not the kind people applaud. The kind people barely notice. You stopped over-explaining. You stopped chasing closure from those who never offered it. You stopped shrinking to keep peace. Not out of anger, out of acceptance. Acceptance doesn't scream, it settles. That day didn't feel like growth. Growth is obvious in hindsight, never in the moment. In the moment, it feels like something slipping away. And it did slip away. An old illusion, an old expectation, an old hope that wasn't grounded in reality. You didn't mourn it properly, you just adjusted. That's how adults grieve things they were never supposed to keep. Years later, you might try to remember when you became this version of yourself. More careful, more selective, more aware. You'll think of many moments. But if you're honest, you'll feel pulled back to that one day. The day that didn't stand out. The day that didn't hurt enough to remember. The day that didn't demand change. It simply made staying the same impossible. That day wasn't dramatic. It didn't deserve a story at the time. But it became the quiet foundation for everything that followed. Every boundary you set later, every decision you made faster. Every situation you walked away from without guilt. They all trace back to that moment of awareness. The moment you realized something inside you had already moved on. And here's the part no one talks about. If you could go back to that day now, knowing how much would change because of it, you still wouldn't stop it. Because nothing bad happened that day. Something honest did. And honesty, once felt, cannot be undone. One day, you'll look at your life as it is now. And feel grateful for a moment you barely noticed, not because it was painful. Not because it was loud, but because it was real. The day nothing happened was the day you finally started listening. And once you listen, everything changes. Even when it looks like nothing ever did.